Community Development and Wellbeing Committee meeting. Before I kick off, I just want to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded. So just so everyone is aware of that as we go through. Before we jump into our agenda, I'd like to hand over to our usual chair, Councillor Franklin, to give a reflection.
Thank you, Councillor Gilmore, and apologies everybody for not being there, and please bear with me, I'm a little wobbly. I'd like to share a piece of written by Albert Einstein. He wrote this about Mahatma Gandhi in 1931. It takes pride of place in the Gandhi Museum and Library in Mumbai. We had the humbling privilege of a tour of what was Mahatma Gandhi's home, and was spellbound by the incredible man that he was. And this is what Albert Einstein wrote: a leader of his people, unsupported by any outward authority, a politician whose success rests not upon craft or mastery of technical devices, but simply on the convincing power of his personality, a victorious fighter who has always scorned the use of force, a man of wisdom and humility, armed with resolve and inflexible consistency, who has devoted all his strengths to the uplifting of his people and the betterment of their lot. A man who has confronted the brutality of Europe with the dignity of a simple human being, and thus at times risen superior. Generations to come, it may be, will scarce believe that such a one as this ever, in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth. Gandhi had been the target of 5 previous assassination attempts before he was finally assassinated by one of his own, a Hindu nationalist, who accused Gandhi of betraying Hindus by being too pro-Muslim and soft on Pakistan. Mahatma Gandhi died on the 30th of January 1948 at the age of 78. I felt that was just a really powerful piece about what politicians can be and probably should be. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Franklin. A very profound way to start off our meeting today. All right, jumping into our agenda, do we have any apologies? Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Chair. Scott, I tender an apology. I need to leave at 10 to 3 this afternoon. Thank you.
Councillor Chase.
Apologies also for me. I need to leave at 3:30 today.
Any other apologies? Could I get someone to please move that we accept those apologies? Councillor Petty-Webber, seconded by Councillor Wards. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, motion carried. Thank you. I'm just going to jump the order of the agenda just ever so slightly and just move to item 5, which is declarations of conflict of interests. Do we have any declarations? Councillor Petty-Webber.
I'm doing a declaration of conflict of interest with the skate park presentation, plus Sport 102's presentation does mention business are some of the projects that run there.
Do we have any other declarations? They are noted. Thank you very much. We are going to now move into our public forum. So we have 3 people presenting today in public forum. Usually under our standing orders, we limit the time for our public forum, but there are some quite big topics within that. So with the will of the committee, I would ask just that we have some flexibility with that. Is that okay with everyone? Perfect. So first of all, I would like to bring up, we're going to be talking about family violence in the Tararua. So I'd like to welcome up Cherie Painter, Trudy Flynn, and Gary McKernan. So if you wouldn't mind coming to the front. And just as you're doing that, I have a short introduction, so feel free to move to the front. Cherie is our kaitiaki for the Tararua region when it comes to the prevention of family violence in the Tararua. We have Trudy Flynn, who is the Tararua Safety Assessment Meeting Coordinator, and Gary McKernan, who is a Dannevirke Police Sergeant. The family violence this family violence presentation is an introduction to family violence in New Zealand, a look at the recent family violence statistics within the Tararua region, relevant contributions to family violence in the Tararua region, and some of the barriers present that prevent victims from accessing help in our region. So I will pass over to you, team. Just quickly, when you're wanting to speak, we have our funny microphone system. So if you just press the talk button and you'll see a red light on your microphone. Just as we've got people on Teams, it means everyone will be able to hear.
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, good morning. I'm sorry, just while we're filling out that presentation, if we just introduce ourselves to fill the gap. So I'm Sergeant Gary McKernan. I've been a police officer in Dannevirke for over 10 years, a sergeant for 5 of those now. And for 4 years, I was the family violence coordinator for Dannevirke Police, Tararua Police. Been a police officer for 28 years, 11 of those are in the UK, 17 been here now. And it's a huge difference in the way family harm is treated in New Zealand. I always get asked the difference. I've been lucky to attended one family harm incident a fortnight in the UK. Those numbers are considerably higher here for various reasons, probably. But yeah, New Zealand has a problem. We need to talk about it.
So I'm Trudy Flynn. My role here is the Tararua SAM coordinator. SAM stands for Safety Assessment Meeting. It is something that's been around for a wee while now, and it's run throughout the country, through New Zealand. We tie in with a system called FSS, and FSS is Family Safety System that the police feed into the episodes. So when we go through the slides, there'll be a bit that I have to talk to that's more around the stats for what's happening here in Tararua. As my role, I coordinate the meetings we hold two times a week. I facilitate those meetings, and through those meetings, the agencies within our region support, put in place a plan, and we risk assess each episode that's presented to our table. I'll just mention while we're waiting, just while that's happening, I've made a few notes, but I'll mention on that point there that the agencies that we have in this region helping us who represent at that table adhere to a strict confidentiality. It is a closed environment and the information is not allowed to be shared outside of those at the table. We have our local iwis, Paingatane, Kahanunu, Tararua Community Services, New Zealand Police, Arts, Women's Refuge, Manline, Mental Health, OT and MSD all have representation at our table. So it's a really, really good, strong knowledge that the people who specialise in family harm to contribute to those episodes and work out a plan going forward for that whānau.
Sure.
Kia ora, my name is Cherie Painter and I'm the Family Violence Prevention Kaitiaki for the Tararua region. So this presentation today is just looking at our national stats, Tararua stats, and a little bit about my role. So I'm new to the role as of January, and the role, I know I was in the role for quite a few months. So it's just a bit about what my role entails and how I can help in the Tararua district. Yeah. So there's some slides, but we're having some technical difficulties.
Well, maybe just to make a suggestion, if you wouldn't mind running through some of that, and then at least the committee, if we can get that emailed out to us in our document system, and then we'll be able to get back from there if that's okay.
So starting off,
Sorry.
starting off with a family violence definition. So according to the Family Violence Act 2018, family violence is violence inflicted against a person with whom that person is or has been in a family relationship with. This includes any physical, sexual, or psychological abuse. And Gary's just going to talk about some of our national family violence statistics.
Yeah, thank you. So these statistics are from 2021. So in New Zealand, it's estimated that only 33% of family violence cases are reported. Again, that's the New Zealand Police stats for 2021. On average, police attend a family violence episode every 4 minutes. Again, that's our New Zealand Police stats for 2021. 67% of family violence episodes still remain unreported. Nearly half of all homicides and reported violent crime relates to family violence, and that's according to the Ministry of Justice 2019 stats. And in 2020 and 2021, there were 155,338 family harm incidents, which accounted for 16% of all police frontline activity, and that's the New Zealand Police stats of 2021.
Women's Refuge stats. The Women's Refuge provided 59,000 nights in safe houses, 115,000 safe nights in emergency or transitional housing, 53,000 referrals were received, 92% were for female and 8% for male, and Women's Refuge received 26,000 crisis calls, averaging 71 calls per day. He's going to talk a bit about the Tararua family violence stats.
So I mentioned that we run a system, FSS system, abbreviation for it. Between I mentioned we run a system, the FSS safety system. It's a database, it's an online database, and it feeds in from the police. So when an episode's taken place, the police process it and they release it, it uploads to our database. It's a national New Zealand database. Myself and the administrator for our team have full access across the country. We're the only two people at the table that can see all episodes. What this allows us to do is follow people who come into our region who have a history, and SAM operates within that region. Not all of the country is on board, but a vast majority is. This then paints a better picture for us. So when the episode is presented at our table, we can actually look to see how many episodes have occurred while they have been under the SAM umbrella and SAM model. So that therefore, rather than looking at it as a one-off episode, we now have that history before us of what's taken place, what plans are being put in place, and what support services they've worked with. This all helps to contribute what we could do to help that whānau going forward. So this slide here is about the stats for the last 5 months that we've been working under this new system. This is information that is I'm able to pull out without having to go to the national database to request reports. So what I was able to pull out from the end of March to the end of July this year, there's been 273 recorded episodes happen in Tararua. 44% of those are in the southern area and 51% is in the northern area. 5% sits in other. So other is classed as further out to the coastline, or anywhere that doesn't actually quite occur within a township that it can be identified. The other stats I have there is the breakdown of that. So We have other that is sitting at 28%. This is again over that, but sorry, 14. They're sitting on 14 episodes that have recorded in that time, that 5 months. Norsewood has had 6 episodes. Eka Tahuna have had 14 episodes. Paiatua have had, I think that says 55. Now I'm needing glasses. And Woodville has had 50 episodes in 5 months. Dannyburg has had 134 episodes in those 5 months. So the amount of the 273 total episodes for 5 months, 102 of those are repeat occurrences. So they've done it as a first time into our system. That's not to say they haven't been at our table before. This is purely based on transferring into the FSS system. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is we have a risk assessment process. These come in and they're measured at a high, medium and low. Our table will risk score based on the episode and the information we have presented to us of where we feel they sit. We do not move further away than 1 step than what it has come in from police. So if police send it in at a low and we feel it's a medium, or even if we feel it's a high, we can only go to a medium. Once we've put that plan in place and that we've done our risk assessment, it's then identified to an agency who'll reach out and make a support call. Each agency have their own guidelines with what that might look like and their number of attempts of type of contact that they'll do. It might be a home visit with a police officer, it might be a phone call, or it might be a first time home visit with a colleague. Most will do 3 phone call attempts and 1 home visit before they decide they can't get any engagement. Oh, did you want me to do that? Sorry, 1 more page. Okay, contributors and barriers. So biggest contributors in the Tararua district to family violence episodes that have been identified from our SAM is meth is really the top for us. We have other forms of drug abuse as well. Alcohol is another factor. There's also financial stress coming through and appearing on our table. We've had lack of housing and accommodation, and we've also seen people who are transient and have come from Cyclone Gabriel into the area as well, which contribute to that overcrowding that's happening in the homes. Barriers identify and assessing services, small community, therefore what we're talking about here is that because we're a small community, people have family members or friends that work within the agencies that work in this space and therefore are refusing to step forward and accept help. So for us, we have to look at what we can do to bring somebody in to that circle that they will trust who isn't a member of that agency or iwi. Victims can't access services as a rule and only 1 vehicle. So some of it is out in the district where they are bound to 1 vehicle per household. He has control, or she does, whoever the victim is has control of the vehicle, and so they are stranded there and unable to reach out for help at the time. So a bit of power and control happening. And lack of awareness around signs of family violence is another thing that we're aware of. Some people do not actually realise they're in that space until it is presented before them.
Okay, so a bit about my role as a family violence prevention kaitiaki. So the purpose is to help prevent family violence within the Tararua communities through initiatives in prevention, intervention, networking and training, and hopefully that results in a reduction of family violence and a promotion of safety and well-being of the people and their families. Some of our target groups are families and whānau that have experienced or at risk of experienced family violence, local communities, government and community organisations, and other groups who have an interest in the well-being of people and their families. Our vision is to ensure that the needs of those who have experienced family violence are met, to increase public awareness around family violence, as well as community understanding, ownership and leadership of safety and well-being of people and their families, and to ensure that all the agencies work well together and are integrated in a collaborative way to respond to and prevent family violence, to ensure that people working with families whānau have the skills and understanding and knowledge to provide competent family violence prevention and intervention services. So that's like bringing guest speakers, education to TAIN. TAIN is Tararua Abuse Intervention Network, which is what the Family Violence Prevention Kaitiaki is about. So key focuses for my role is networking, so building relationships within a lot of the agencies, strengthening our connections and offering support where I can. Information sharing, so where is more help needed? What are the current issues, trends and gaps in our community? So having a good relationship with Trudy and finding out what all these trends and gaps, etc. are. And then what are the barriers also from people seeking support and where can we help there? And then kind of working together to achieve the best outcomes and goals. So a family violence prevention kaitiaki is a reasonably new role, as the government is now putting more money and resources towards family violence prevention than ever before. And they've implemented a strategy called the Te Ao Rerekura, and that was came into action in December 2021, and it's an action plan for a national strategy to eliminate family violence and sexual violence. So, Honourable Marama Davidson, which she's the Minister of the Prevention of Family Violence and Sexual Violence, a direct quote about Te Ao Rerekura is, it sets out a collective ambition to create peaceful homes where children, families and whānau strive, to enable safe communities where all people are respected, and to support the well-being of our nation. It represents an evolution in our journeys to address violence in our homes and communities. And within this strategy, we have identified the actions that are required for us to make the changes, and it is clear that the whole government action is required. So just some events that I've been present at. So I had a stall at Children's Day where there was an activity for the children, and also I had some bags full of information of a lot of the agencies in the Tararua that people could have, and I helped out at the Pongaroa Cyclone Shout, and we had a notice board where a lot of services and help and support was available to the victims. Also, I had helped at the Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So with the senior social worker from Tararua Community Services, we had a sausage sizzle in Dannevirke and in Paeatua. And also I had a stall with the Kai Collective at Bush Sports Day, and that was promoting where everybody could get help with kai in the community and information about the community gardens. And some stuff that's coming up is we have TAIN meetings every 2 to 3 months. I've also organised the Tararua Youth Group to visit Palmerston North Women's Refuge, and I've presented at the Strengthening Families meeting on my role as a family violence prevention kaitiaki, and I'm also presenting at the Special Education Needs Coordinators meeting. I'm going to have a stall at the Woodville Community Collective and, a stall at the Woodville Community Expo and present at the Woodville Community Collective, and hopefully do some work with the White Ribbon Committee as well. And Gary's going to talk a little bit about the White Ribbon Committee.
Yes, one of my hats is So one of my roles is a white ribbon ambassador as well. I've normally got a white ribbon on, but I've lost 4 to several scuffles. We meet regularly throughout the year. White Ribbon Day in November, 25th of November, and we try and do our various events throughout that week. Last year, against our efforts, and you probably, if you've come through Danny Virtue in that week, have seen the white crosses and the stories of the victims of family harm on the trees. This year, I think we're going to try and focus on. We will start near the clock and we do a presentation there, but I think we're preaching to converted there. Everyone who attends is knowledgeable and wants to be there. I think as a committee, it's our job now to get out and about and talk to those people who couldn't make it to that particular event. There's only a small number of us on the committee. Generally, you'll see us sausage sizzle or just trying to organise some kind of events. And like I said, this year, I think our commitment will be to reach some of those streets, so we say, that we frequent far too often, not necessarily just the main street. Anyone who would like to join the committee should drop us a line, put you in touch with the chairperson. Becoming a white ribbon ambassador requires doing a short course online, taking a pledge, and showing some commitment to make a difference towards men's behaviour, because men are the problem. We need to do better for ourselves. We need to do better for our sons. Teach them a better way. That's what we're there for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry, Trudy, and Gary. Such an important topic for our entire district. Personally, I'm really grateful for the work that you do, and definitely looking at those statistics, we do need to do better. So highlighting that for us in this committee, I'm very, very, very grateful for your time and coming along and doing that. Now we have time for a couple of questions. Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I had the privilege of working with this team here in the early days prior to implementing some of the systems that they have now. Back in the day, though, Gary, there were 2 resources from the police assigned to this. Is that still the case to support the?
So we have, I've stepped aside as the prevention sergeant, and Sergeant Sean Ruck is now actually looking after family harm, but she's currently looking after the Swedish soccer team for the World Cup. So you got me. And we have 2 prevention staff within the Tararua under her. One of those now is focused solely on the family harm part of that. And the other one is the road policing. So whereas we used to have the 2 overlapping, it became more important to just focus. So we've just got the one.
Thank you very much for your time and coming along. We will all have access to that presentation as well, so rest assured we will be going through it. But we're really grateful for the work that you do and the time you've made. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Callum Skeet up for public forum. Welcome, Callum. I think you probably heard how to work the microphones, so.
Thank you. And yes, I've been here a couple of times before with different hats on. Good afternoon, and thank you for receiving our presentation. My name's Callum Skeet. I'm here on behalf of Tumaira Energy, which is a solar company that is ultimately owned by Rangatani or Tamaki Nui Rua. And we have a vision for collectively building a solar farm in the Dannevirke area, principally with aiming for the beneficiaries of that solar farm to be people, whānau, who are struggling with power poverty. It's a very real thing in New Zealand, unfortunately. Cost of living, amongst other things, electricity prices are constantly going up, and people are having to make decisions about whether they turn the heating on and the lights on. And there's ways and means that we believe that we can help assist in those areas. And as part of that, there was an application made to the renewable energy projects for Maori housing late last year, and provisionally the MB have granted a sum of money that would enable us to build a 0.5 megawatt solar farm. If any of the terminology that I use needs clarification, please ask as we go through. Now, in a previous role, I had developed a feasibility study on behalf of council to look at how we could use underutilized land solar with the benefit, to then generate a income stream that could benefit people in need. And so leveraging off that work I have done previously, the concept that we're talking about, and this is only concept at the moment, is utilising the land adjacent to the sewer ponds on Makurikuri Road. And as you can see there in the artistic impression, that's about 0.8 of a hectare, and that is just over 0.5 megawatt or 550 kilowatts, which is about 1,000 solar panels in that picture there. What we're looking for in terms of the land is land that is not really utilised for other economic purposes, adjacent to a large electricity consumer, so that we have a ready-made customer that will consume the bulk of the electricity that we produce, and also someone who is paying a reasonable price for their electricity through the normal retail system, and that in this particular case, the sewer ponds meet all of those criteria. The average consumption is around 1,500 kilowatt hours per day for that site. The price that the council pays for electricity makes the whole thing financially viable from our perspective, and still allowing room for there to potentially be a discounted price for the electricity that we would be producing to be fed into council. This solar farm that's depicted there would produce around 57% of the energy requirements for that particular site, averaged on a daily basis throughout the year, and in the process offsetting around 97 tonnes of carbon annually. Can I move that on? There we go. Thank you. So that little picture there is shaped around a house, but it gives the production numbers from the modelling from that solar system. And there's a number there of 1,300 kilowatt hours that's exported into the grid. And part of our conversation with Scampower when we socialised this concept with them to see whether there were any issues from their perspective was that from their perspective, a small solar farm supplying electricity into the grid in that location would potentially be of benefit to them. It helps them with some of their distribution problems. a lot of work still to be done on that, but conceptually, they're supportive of such a project. Potential benefits for council would be a discounted rate on the electricity that the cost of electricity that you're currently paying for the portion that's supplied by solar. That could also be locked in for extended periods of time, so that then you have a hedge against future price rises on electricity, and perhaps counting the carbon offsets as a result. Yeah, so from our perspective, it's a concept at the moment that we'd like to present to council for council to consider, to look to do further work on this so that we can then make a formal proposal. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Callum. It certainly sounds like an exciting project. One thing that perhaps I'll suggest is definitely having a more detailed paper would be helpful for us to fully look into and consider as a council. So what I would like to do at this point is to move that we request the Chief Executive undertake some due diligence and to bring a paper back to council where we can fully look at this and fully discuss it. So do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Johns, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion carried. Thank you. Callum, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
And now I would like to welcome the Dannevirke Multisport Complex up to the table. A familiar face, or a couple of familiar faces, one slightly more familiar than the other. I'll hand over to you, team.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. If you haven't met Sam, which you might have met her recently, she has been here presenting at council for the long-term plan. So we're in here still under DMCI, but we're going to present to you today about the skate park. So I'm going to start us off. So DMCI's vision is to provide the Dannevirke and surrounding catchment with modern sport and recreation facilities and opportunities for all age groups, demographics and codes. So I'm just going to briefly go through these slides, just so you've got a bit of history on where the skate park originated from. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I've just realised which button it is. Sorry. Push the right one this time. So originally the skate park committee was formed by Mayor Tracy, Alan Bembo and Neil Gibbard after a petition was done by the children of Dannevirke for a new skate park back in 2018. There have been a number of locations that have been looked at, which I'm going to go through each location so you get an idea that we've done quite a bit of work. I've been on the committee since 2019, since I've been on council. And we've brought Sam in quite recently. It's a picture as well. So the first location, which we thought would be the perfect location, was the BMX track at Dagmar Street, which is it runs parallel to the Domain. So it's a couple of streets over from the Domain. Quite a big area of land that's not utilised for BMX track nowadays. Unfortunately, the neighbours of this area didn't want a skate park on their back doorstep. And Dannevirke Police, this area is quite secluded, so there's not a lot of, you can't see it from the main road. And so the safety aspect of this area didn't meet the police standards as well. This was the next area we looked at, which is by the Scout Hall. So at the bottom there on the left is the row of trees that go from White Splash to the Scout Hall. We looked at this area in detail, but unfortunately with this area, it does slope where the pump track is in that picture. It does slope down. So the contractors that we had look at it needed a lot of retaining to stabilise that side. Plus the trees weren't the greatest with dropping debris into the skate bowl. Also, we would have had to bring toilets, cameras and lighting to this area. So the costs for this area was quite substantial. This is the next area around the running track. We looked at only last year. This was good. There were it was a long, narrow area, probably not the biggest space. It was quite close to the road, but then a lot of play equipment is close to the road anyway. The main thing wrong with this area was that athletics didn't really want to shift the track slightly, and cricket will row back cricket balls hitting the children, and yeah, so it had its pluses though. It was near the cameras, near the toilets, and near the other play equipment, so that all the children could be together of all ages. I will talk about the new area later on. I'll just go through the public consultation that we've done. So the Survey Monkey we did with 91% of participants believe that there isn't enough recreational spaces in Dennyverk. And the most important recreation features that were wanted was a pump track, skate park, walking and cycling track, and outdoor basketball court. Other important features were family friendly, safety and maintenance, access to toilets, water fountain, access and cater for all ages. The most recreational space used in Dennyverk was the upper domain. Oh. Okay. Yep. So this other one, some of the public consultation we did, holiday program competition for kids. We asked the children to draw pictures of what they would like in the recreational space at the domain. We got quite a few entries from the schools, and it gave something for the kids to do over the school holidays. So we've got quite a few of those on file, giving us different ideas, because it's all about what the children want in this space. This is another event we had, public consultation at the upper domain. So we went through that map that was a few slides back, and they gave us some really good ideas that we hadn't thought of that we've got on file that we can use going forward. Even there's the smallest things of having like a pump to pump their tyres up, like in their bikes, and yeah, just the things we probably hadn't thought of. And there are commercial options out there that we could get hold of. We needed to finalise with the children, nail down what they really wanted. So we did this survey at the skate park during the school holidays. So this one here, we asked what did they use the most? So was it, did they skateboard, scooter or bike? What would they like the most? A skate park, a pump track or a skate bowl? And what time of the day did they use the skate park, and how many times a week? The children mainly ride scooters, and the survey showed that the skate park outweighed a pump track and a bowl, which we thought that a pump track was what the children wanted, but from the survey it showed it was actually a skate park. They use the current bowl mainly after schools and in the weekends. From the public consultation, it was decided to start with a skate park first, as this is what the kids wanted. Currently, our skate bowl is too small for our growing population. Only one child can drop in at a time. A new skate park will give our children a bigger space to skate, scooter or bike with their friends. It will also keep them busy and out of trouble. We are looking at a park that will have different levels to cater for under fives through to adults. The benefits to the children will be keeping them off devices so they can become fitter, healthier individuals. And a skate park is a long-term investment for the community. After this, we looked at joining DMCI. The skate park committee decided that DMCI's visions for the future of recreation facilities aligned, so it was decided that we should join them instead of working against each other. We would be drawing from the same pool of money in the community and funders, and DMCI were already incorporated, so that this saves the skate park committee time and money. We're both looking at developing the Dannevirke domain, and DMCI are looking at creating a hub at the upper domain, a one-stop shop for people of all walks of life that can come together and be active. The skate park is phase 1 of a 3-phase project that they have planned for the future. Introducing Sam. DMCI received funding from the DIA to employ an activator. Sam was employed as an activator back in May. I think it was May. It was about May, eh? Yeah, this year. An activator engages with the community, sport and recreation groups to develop and implement and monitor initiatives to boost participation in sport and active recreation through sport providers, events and schools. An activator also works with the community to plan, coordinate and delivers community-based projects. Her role is to develop and grow relationships with schools, clubs, facilities and other community members. I'm just going to pass over to Sam and she's going to go through some of the things she's been up to lately.
So what the first thing I did was I went into the community and went to some committee meetings for some of the clubs in town, just checking where they were at and what they needed help with, offered my help with funding. Also, if there was anything that the club was struggling with, could I help them? So a couple of things that came out of that was junior football was struggling with coaches. So I facilitated with Sport Manawatu to get a coaching course for junior football, which they ran in Pahiatua, which I think 5 junior football parents attended, which was really good. Another thing that came from committee meetings was the way parents spoke on sidelines and if we could get some improvement in that. So which was really cool that Sport Manawatu were running an awesome program called Good Sports at the time. So they actually came here to Dannevirke and ran a workshop for us, which was cool. And we had lots of parents and lots of coaches and people come out to that. They've also tagged us onto their funding to get some signage put up around town and some flags and stuff that we can use, which was really cool. I coordinated some holiday programs. One was Splash Save that they ran at Y-Splash, an onboard skate, which was a skate program that they ran in the holidays, and they're looking at coming into schools in term 4 as well, which will be really cool. Also some pop-up play events that I've done just at the sports centre with the play trailer, but just volunteering my time to help with things like at the netball tournament, the cyclone relief days. I'm also going to help with the Sevens tournament tomorrow, hopefully, all weather pending, and working on this project, which has taken a lot of time, but I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Sam, we are lucky to have Sam on board. She's been driving, especially the skate park project, but also the stadium as well, and getting out into the community, because our main goal is to make it a big hub where everyone comes together. So I'll just look at some of the other work we've been doing is working with other councils like Manawatu and Horowhenua, thanks to Jessie. finding out what the ins and outs were of the escape parks. On the right, the top one is Manawatu's skate park, and the bottom one is the Foxton pump track. I'll pass it over to Sam. This is one that Sam's done recently. Sam has recently been at St Joseph's School.
So I went into St Joseph's School to just have a chat with the kids to find out where they're at with their skate park, and I wanted to know what they didn't like about the bowl at the moment and what they wanted in a skate park as well. They were amazing. They gave me some really great ideas and things that I hadn't thought about as well. The most common thing that came up for the kids was the safety of the current skate bowl, how steep it is for drop-ins and that it wasn't good for kids to learn. They also said that it was too close to the wall. They said it was wedged between two buildings, and when they're fast and doing their tricks that they don't have much of a ledge to get up onto. They were also concerned about the state of the bowl, saying that it was quite often full with glass and leaves and that it wasn't really taken care of. They also gave me some amazing ideas of things you can see, on the next slide, of things that they wanted in a skate park, which was a real eye-opener for me because some of these things I actually hadn't heard of before. So this was quite good from them. They've also written letters to support our business case, and they've made little designs as well of what they've been working really hard, so they've been helping me a lot with this. But they're really excited about the idea of a new skate park because they think that they don't often use the bowl here because it's not really fit for purpose for them at this stage. So they would love a new skate park.
Me and Tracy had a letter back in March that from a couple of boys from South School. So I've just put that up on screen. Talks similar to St Joseph's School, talks that the skate bowl's too small, too dangerous for little children, too many people crash into each other. So just reiterating some of the stuff that the children are talking about. And they also gave us some designs. So when we do get to the stage where we have chosen a designer, we'll get these children back in to help us, and so that they can have their input because it's going to be theirs. And the more, like talking to other councils, the more ownership the children have, the more likely they're less to tag it and take care of the skate bowl. Okay, this is the new area we're looking at. So this area is where some of you may remember where the old swimming pool was at the Domain, the outdoor pool. This area is closer to other play equipment, so parents aren't split between two areas for parental supervision. Closer to toilets and the water fountain, cameras and lighting are in this area. This aligns with the TED principles for crime prevention. You can what does it stand for?
Crime prevention through environmental design. So good lighting, cameras, it's a high traffic area, it's visible to everyone from the street and also people in the park. So that basically aligns with the crime prevention principles.
We've been working with the other stakeholders of the Domain, and they like this area and they have given us letters to support this area. So that's the athletics, soccer and cricket. This area is also a lot bigger, so we're not as limited as we were to the side of the athletics track. It is away from the road and any flying cricket balls. It was highlighted in the Survey Monkey that 82% of those surveyed already use the upper Domain. Get Sam to talk about the water fountain.
So the water fountain is in that area and we had talked through this with some council workers and it was stated that it wouldn't be used again to run water through it because of the water restrictions, that it still has to be maintained. So there was the possibility of removing it if we could speak to the owners. So Mr. Easton owns the fountain, and he was happy to have that fountain removed and replaced with a recreational area for kids. He was very positive about that. So also,
So sorry to jump in, Erina and Sam, just quite conscious of time now. Could I just get an indication of roughly how much longer you need for your presentation?
3 slides.
Perfect. Thank
Sorry.
you very much. No, that's fine. I'm just trying to work out where we're at. Thank you.
this also frees up more space in that area. It goes all around the front and can go all the way out to the back. When I've been working with the iwis, the main theory that came out from them was that they would like a half court basketball court to be incorporated in the skate park. When we found this area, we thought this would work well with them, as it gives us a lot more space, and that there could be potential to have a skate park and a half court basketball court there as well.
Okay, this is just give you an idea of the budget. So we've been talking to 3 different companies: Rich Landscapes, J Stone, and Premium Construction. So they're all, this just gives you an idea of the costs. Some include geotech surveys and drainage and engineering, and some don't. The lifespan of the skate park is around 15 to 20 years, and the maintenance would need to allow $1 to $2 grand a year. Paitoa's main costs are rubbish removal, spraying and weeding, and down in Paitoa, the children take ownership of the skate park and take turns at sweeping it out. The other one that came up is graffiti, which we may get as well, which other councils have said can be a problem. This is Sam's been working closely with Kimberley to come up with a funding plan for our skate park. So this is just the estimates that we're looking at and who we're looking at getting the money through. So why are we here? We're here today to ask for permission to use the land at the domain for a skate park and half basketball court. Removal of the water fountain and Dannevirke's portion of the Recreation Reserve Fund. For the size of Dannevirke, we would like 80k from that fund that's that each town has an allocation from. Plus also be consider us for the 3 Waters Better Off funding of 50k. And I know you can't give us an answer today, but thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that, and some really exciting things ahead potentially for the children of Dannevirke, and we'll open up just for a couple of questions for a start, and then I may just make a bit of a comment on the requests, if that's okay. Was there any questions, Councillor Johns?
Thanks, Chair Scott. You mentioned the children designed the bowl and the layout and so on. I take it that's just the overall impression, not the actual design of the drops and angles and so on. No. Thanks a lot for that.
Mayor Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Can you tell me, for the skate park, do you require a consent to do that? And I guess I'm keen to understand with the change of location, the noise, and some of those challenges. The other one that I would make comment on is there any public or further consultation around the water fountain? Because I've actually had complaints from residents around that not working and some of those questions. So I was a little bit surprised to hear if that had got to quite so quickly.
So we will need resource consent, and we haven't done any public consultation with the water fountain. No.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. One thing that I would suggest with the requests that you've got. You're right, it's not something that this committee would be able to decide today. For this, and I guess I'll look to Adele. I think this would require a paper to come back either to this committee or to full council. So is that something that you'd be willing? Great, and getting an indication of yes. So brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Sam. Thank you for coming in. Really nice to see you again, and Erin, I'll welcome you back to the table. Okay, councillors, thanks for that. That is all the time we have for public forum. Just moving on to item 4, notification of items not on the agenda. Councillors would have seen last night a notification of a separate item subject to us agreeing to it. So the committee is asked to consider an item of additional business, the request from Te Whatu Ora to provide feedback on proposed locality boundaries. The reason that this item is not on the agenda is that the request was received after the agenda had been published. The discussion cannot wait until later meetings as provision of timely feedback is required. If accepted as an item of additional business, the committee will be asked to recommend that the officers provide a report for decision at the council meeting of the 30th of August 2023. So I'd like to move the motion that the locality boundary determination paper be taken as a late item of business. That is seconded by Councillor, by Mayor Tracy. I think you had your hand up. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. So that will move to item 8 of our agenda, which we will get to at the end. All right, now we're going to move on to item number 6, which is confirmation of minutes. So confirmation of minutes starts at, we'll go through page by page. So page 3, was there any questions on that? Page 4. Page 5. 6. Page 7. Okay. If there's no questions on those, could I have someone move that the minutes of the Community Development and Wellbeing Committee held on the 6th of June 2023 be confirmed as a true and accurate record? Moved by Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We will now move on to reports. Our first report being 7.1, Sport Tararua 12-month report. So I'd like to invite Brad and Whitney up to the table. Please note your report has been read by all councillors, but I will hand over to you for any comments you'd like to make.
Tēnā koutou katoa, e huhui nei tēnei rā. E te mihi ki a koutou I ngā rangatira, e ngā TDC whānau, e ngā iwi, tēnā koutou katoa. I te whānau whai te mataranga kia marama, kia whai nā mahi katoa, tū mai a tūkaha, aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou e tātou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to come and present our annual report. Sorry, I'm pulling the drawer out. Firstly, I just want to pass on a sincere apologies from our CEO, Kelly Shanks, is unable to be here to present this. So she's asked Whitney, because she knows what she's talking about, to come. So no, it's great for those that or haven't met Whitney. Whitney is our Play Systems lead. You'll know through the report that there's been a number of different paragraphs on play. So I thought I would bring Whitney in to talk to one significant component of our report. There were a couple of highlights that I did want to on very quickly, conscious, however, of your time. Of course, those are our outcomes. I think one of the things we've really attempted to do through this partnership and other partnerships is to bring greater awareness around impact. A lot of times we've put information in reports and it's really been about the programs. This is what we've done. However, we are trying to improve, evolve to present information that talks about the actual impact. Okay, we've done this, so what? What does it lead to? So I do hope that you've taken information from your report and you can see there's a bit of a change. I will jump ahead, highlighting various activities, things, and it was great to have our whānau from the Dennyville Multisport Hub, notwithstanding that there's also others that we work with, and I think that's where for you as elected members is just understanding what our position is we want to strengthen our relationship with stakeholders such as DMCI, likewise Bush Trust, who we've partnered with for a number of years. But crucially is that there are other components or areas within our district that also require support. And so that's where your investment goes into trying to balance that out, creating equitable ways for all of our community members to benefit. Just some of the things there that again have been highlighted is so we've talked about the play components, but it was the train's first birthday. And again, I want to acknowledge the Mayor, this council, for, I think, making that happen without having, I guess, the foresight to see where this could take us. And I also want to acknowledge Bush Multisport Trust because while this is a mobile unit, there was also a functional element of loose parts play, and that was the real first iteration of what this could look like. And you'll see it's expanded to balance school, so it's in schools now. So again, Empire tour, me. Yep, those are about spaces and places. But what I did want to highlight, without just sort of going into one more side, was the Cyclone Gabrielle community engaged. Can't I guess tautoko the work that this council and other support groups have done with working with community, but actually the community itself were unbelievable through what was and still is you know, the mop-up of this. But our little part to it started off, and I think we touched on this the last time we came in, I think the team just wanted to put on those flash shoots. But that actually led to a much broader conversation with our Sport Tararua Sport Manawatu board. And so within that report, I touched on the Integrity Fund or Innovation Fund. And it was our way to really, I guess, showcase to the community that their thoughts were with us and that there was someone we could contribute to that. So I'm hoping, because this is now there is music to this, but it was my singing, and I don't think you want to listen to this. This video was taken from our engagements, and it was led by Whitney. So I'm going to give you some time to talk to this.
So yeah, as you'll see, I don't know why that's doing that. That shouldn't look that quality. Sorry about that. We can get that out to anybody who would like to see it at full speed, not jumping. But I understand the conversations we had when Leah was still on board, that there were quite a few children showing signs of trauma through after Cyclone Gabrielle. When it rained quite a bit, they were actually scared about how they were going to get home, and weather became quite an issue for them. So I know she worked with Tony Chapman on what we could do to help support the community, and these whānau fun days were created. So we went out to 4 schools: Weber, Pongaroa, Kumaroa and Norsewood. And pretty much for the kids, it was an afternoon of fun and play. And while we were activating the children, it allowed other support services such as Rural Trust, Tararua Reap, our iwi and obviously TDC to be a wraparound services really. Work out what the communities needed, what the school community or the school staff were after, and they were able to support them while we looked after the children, and we got to have some fun for the day. So we were also, as part of the fund, we were able to work with the schools and see what equipment or gear they required or wanted. So we were able to actually leave something there for them to continue to play. Play is a huge tool when you talk about crises. It's a sense of normality for children. And it actually can be used for them to have a sense of or work through what they've been through. So it was huge for us to help enable play to continue onwards. We've also been involved in the social recovery group that continues to meet, and we will continue on and support however we can. I think that's about it. Yep.
Right. And then just to conclude, in terms of future priorities, I suppose the key one for us coming out T7, and it's going to go ahead because it's going to be out tomorrow. All right. We've still got I love your optimism. Integrity project, that's a sideline behaviour piece. Again, it was highlighted by Sam in her presentation, but this is something around providing quality experiences. It's not just for the participants, it's also about parents, that parents have a good time supporting their kids. We want to try and do as we go down the list. This is around adults have a goes. We're conscious around when I talk about equity pieces, investment for kids, our rangatahi, tamariki. However, parents are also within that frame. And I think going back to the first presentation today, that's where play, active, rec and sport can play a role in wellbeing. Last but not least is really just total acknowledge this council for your ongoing support of the mahi. We do, the team does, to support your community here. Ngā mihi.
Thanks very much, Brad and Whitney, for that. And thanks for all the work that you do in our community. And it really does jump out at me, particularly with the cyclone, actually seeing how that came together, all of the partnerships all working together. We're definitely hoping for sunshine for the Sevens tournament because a number of us will be there starting with some consultation. So that's very exciting. Councillors, is there any questions? Yeah, Tracy.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Just a comment if I could. I was out at Herbertville with the chair of the community board on the day that the Sport Manawatu were out there helping. Just wanted to acknowledge the amount of work and just the volume. Especially at the Herbertville one, you know, the salt councillors was that thick. It was heavy and hard, and the team did a magnificent job. But I was also at one household when they also came in, and it was like having the cavalry arrive to lend that hand. So I just wanted to say a thank you very, very much for the work that you did, and acknowledge just how hard that was and how much it was appreciated by the community. And I love your little logo on the bottom of that, the bottom of your slide. That's great, Sport Tararua. Nice use of the Land of Rangers.
Whether that was a new logo.
Yeah, no. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if when Kelly first introduced herself to the committee, I think she may have mentioned that one of the aspirations in talking with the board is giving I think effects to the communities that we work in, and so we were certainly conscious that we're not all Manawatu. So this it is about giving recognition to this community. So this is your logo, and at this hopefully the commencement of your see the rationale behind that change.
Thanks very much for that. It's an awesome logo, nice. Throughout the report, and even just talking to Sport Tararua is really good.
Just touch on that briefly. So you can see those waves, so there are ranges. And the little bites, there is a Māori reference to that. I think it refers to a taniwha, actually just doing a bit of a nibble there. So we've got that stems from the Awa. So
very cool. Yeah. Very nice. Any other questions, councillors? Okay. Thank you very much, Brad and Whitney, for your time and us. We really appreciate it as always, but thank you. Okay, just having a look at the recommendation on page 9. The recommendation is that the report from the Group Manager Strategy and Community Wellbeing dated 28th of April 2023 concerning the Sport Tararua 12-month report to June be received. Could I have someone move that? Councillor Sutherland, seconded by Councillor Chase. Hopefully that hand was up to second it. Brilliant. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Councillors, thank you for that. We are moving on to page 47 of our papers, which is the Woodville Women's Institute proposed sheltered seating at Fountain Square. So, Jessie, thank you.
Good afternoon, councillors. Are we happy to take this report as read? Any questions? So this is on the Woodville Women's Institute, and just a bit of background, they approached us for this.
Jessie, any questions? Councillor Johns.
For you, Chair Scott, probably not a question so much as a comment. Glenys came and saw me before she got in touch with council about this project. I was positive of the general idea, but I'm appalled at the structure as demonstrated. I mean, if it to my mind, it's either not there at all, or it has to tie in with the Octagon and be a similar standard look, even though that might cost a whole lot more money. And if that can't be done, I was rather not have anything there, see anything there.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Is there anything you want to respond to that, Jessie, or just take that as a comment? Right. Any other questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I was reading through it and thinking, yeah, this is a heritage site and there'll be limitations, and the way we're going to get around this is to call it a summer house. I understand, but I'm a little bit like Councillor Johns. That didn't look like a summer house to me, and it looked like a box that was going to be stuck on the edge of. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Wards. I'll have some comments in a second, but I'll just see if anyone else has anything. Was that your hand up? Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Scott. I guess in keeping in line with the park, would there be a possibility that the Women's Institute could have further discussions with Positively Woodville and access some further funding to work with the community on that design?
I'll second the motion to that effect. If you wish a motion, Chair Scott.
Yep, that's quite similar to my thoughts. So, Mayor Tracy, are you happy to move that as a motion? Just double check, is that okay? You've got the gist of that down. Seconded by Councillor Johns. Before I take the vote on that, I just want to double check, is there any further discussion? The motion's been moved and seconded.
Just a question.
Yes, yeah, Councillor.
Yeah, no, I agree with you all what you're doing. Are you going to cap the price, or are we just going to go?
I think at this stage there's been no agreement on the price. If there was any spending that was required by council at this stage, there's been no ask or request for that. That would have to be that would have to come back as a further paper, but it's a valid question. Great. Okay, the motion is there. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against. Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Jesse. Okay, councillors, we are going to move to page 55. What we might actually do, I'm just wondering if we have a very, very quick 10-minute break now, which will allow us to kick on through. So is that okay with everyone? If we are back sharp at 2:30, so sharp at 2:30. Thanks, councillors.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, councillors. We're just going to resume and move to item 7.3, which is the management report and the name of the CE, but I may hand over to my left.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Look, I will take the report as read. It is quite a chunky report, so I wonder if we track through section by section to see if you've got any questions, and I can have the respective management lead roles come up to answer those. So it starts off with facilities. See?
So, yep, that is absolutely fine. Mayor Tracy, you had a couple of questions on this.
I did at the on item 2.1.3 in the CRMs. Just wondering in regards to the public conveniences, and I guess these ones interest me because the level of service is usually requested to be increased. I just wondered, is there any commonality on location within those CRMs for public conveniences?
It's generally associated with Woodville, and we have the two there, so Fontaine and Vogel.
Right. So that's
We can provide that information for you.
no, I was just keen to understand, so that you've answered that question. And my second question was just in regards to the Dennyburg campground. That's the other campgrounds are seeing the increase, and we're not experiencing that. That's quite a big drop off. Is there any reason for that other than saturation?
Yeah, and they have come through, so you will see in next month's report a huge spike, an increase. Yeah, so I think it went through a lull, but you will see in next month's it spiked back up significantly.
Thanks very much. And we'll stay on page 56 for a second. Are your questions on page 56? Right. So we'll go Councillor Chase, then Councillor.
With that question about the campgrounds, campground numbers for Dennyburg, at the last report, he was counting them wrong or differently from how everyone else was. Was he doing that not by the number of days, where the others were doing it by days, and he was doing that as one visit? Is that correct? Or is that changed?
So it was identified in April through the Danenberg Community Board for us to look into how it was being reported. So for the last two reports, it's been corrected. He was reporting it as one, if somebody stayed for 2 nights, it was 1 visit. Yep.
That's the same question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just on this page, I had a really quick question, I guess more of a comment on this. At our last meeting, we put in a request that we have a since the last report column in there, so we can actually track how the movement there. So I guess just reiterating that request, and it goes to Mayor Tracy's comment. Actually, in Dannevirke, it was second only to Paetua, was actually quite a high rise since the last report, which was encouraging. But I just wanted to make that comment. Cool. That's fine. Great. Any other questions? Councillor Wards.
Chair Scott, we're still on page 57.
Yes, we can be on page 57.
Oh, it's a comment under item 2.4.1, the Dannevirke Town Hall.
Could you turn your microphone on?
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Huge kudos to the paint job in there. The Lions book sale was there last week, and I sat in that kitchen and thought, whoa, this is fantastic. So please pass on congratulations on the great job. It's just transformed the whole, just so well done, team, whoever did that. Made a big difference.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wards. Jumping on to page 58, any questions? Right, page 59, I do on here, but I'll see if there's any other questions. More just an observation on page 59, again, just tracking back to the last report. Note that the Dannevirke Town Hall hasn't had any change to booking numbers or booking hours, similar to Paeatua Town Hall, which would be expected. But, so just, I guess, wanted to note that, but and double check, is that correct? From
Yes, so some are customer services manages bookings, some the local committee, and so then they send those through and then we update our figures. So what you're seeing is what we received, and then we chase up if we're missing any data.
Mayor Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Scott. If I could, I'll just share an insight that I wasn't aware of, and you'll often hear me compare the Dannevirke Town Hall to the hub as a venue, but actually I didn't realise the hub is cross-subsidised by the church, which does make that a little bit of a more reasonable hireage. So that does sort of gave me a little bit of insight into the
For that insight, that's really helpful. Councillor Long.
Through you, Chair. Just while we're on that, I see the Paeatua custodian, Margaret, has been there since, has retired from her position. Yeah. So how long has she been on that? Oh, since 1982. Now, that's the one. Yeah. So I think there should be a letter or something going to her from the council or from Paeatua saying thank you very much for that. Big amount of time, 40-something years.
We did that when we received her notice in May. Yes, we reached out to her. Just on that, we have received an update because Melody is filled in place, and they're looking at 8 hours now. So the facility's only being used 8 hours a month to a cultural center.
And thanks, Councillor Long. I think it's perhaps something that this committee can also look at. A significant amount of service. To highlight, I was 1 when she started. So.
Watch out, you're not lying.
Was your birthday yesterday, Councillor Ward? So I won't ask. Page 60. Any questions? Mayor Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Public conveniences, I noticed that, the facilities team are going to work with local police and ensure that our security providers are monitoring them a little bit more closely. But actually, do we work also with our community volunteers like Community Patrol, where it's not, perhaps incurring a cost?
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Page 61, councillors, any questions? Page 62, we move on to economic and community development. Any questions here? Thank you very much, Jessie. Appreciate it. No. Page 63. I do have some questions around page 63, but I will see if there's anyone else. Okay. Page 63. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Just digital spaces toward the bottom of the page there. Do we have an update as to what's happening with digital spaces?
I'm not sure with what your questions is referring to, but with regards to recruitment and staffing. Tony Chapman has seconded over to our recovery team to take the social lead up there. And we are commencing a recruitment process. We had to enter into a discussion with MB around the movements of that contract and obviously making them aware that there was going to be a change of staffing with that. So yes, working with HR and Adele with regards to the replacement of Tony in that secondment role.
Nothing arranged yet.
Not yet, but it will be advertised shortly.
Thanks for that. That covered my question. Any other questions on 63? Page 64. Anything here, councillors? No, I have one request at 3.6.3, which is business relationships in the Accelerate 25. It discusses a presentation that's available for circulation. So I'd just like to request that that be sent to all committee members, please. Great. Page 65, I guess while we're here, exactly the same, just the quarterly report for digital spaces. The same request, please, if that goes to all committee members. Any other questions on that page 65? Oh, page 66. Just a very quick comment for me on this, and I guess we've moved into communications now, so thank you very much, Colin. Page 66, where it talks to the annual plan at 4.2. I just wanted to note, it said that we had 191 attendees in our engagement process. I'm not sure quite where that numbers come from, because I think we had significantly more people face to face at all of the different engagement meetings that we went to. So if this is something that we're, I guess, celebrating how many people came along to those, I'd be keen to have that number checked. Yep. Thank you for that. Page 67, councillors. Page 68. Looks like some significant work that's gone on here. I particularly like this format. I just wanted to mention of actually breaking down some of these things for us. So would like to compliment you on that. Page 69. Page 70. Page 71. Page 72. 73. Moving there on to regulatory, page 74. Any questions on this page, councillors? I have a quick one here as well. I see Jim having a slight chuckle. 6.2 building services. Just wanted to, and this may be me not understanding this table, so you may be able to help with that. I suspect in the last column it says from 1 July, we're still talking about from 1 July 22, or?
Yes, yeah, you are. I just added the extra column there so you can just see what occurred in the last report. That's all.
Okay.
It's flowing from 1st of July 22 to the 30th. It's gone.
Thanks for that, Jim. I guess that sort of notes that not much has happened in that space, which is really interesting when it comes to the building consent space. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty steady in comparison to 21-22 year. Yeah, although things are slowing down a little bit.
Thanks, Jim. Page 75, team. So similar story there, which I guess you would expect from that first column, that first chart. Page 76.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Just a question for you, if I may, to you, Jim.
If the consenting process is slowing down, then the inspection process will slow down.
Okay. Possibly.
Not necessarily.
Not necessary, but I guess the implications, and I don't know whether it's a question you could answer or whether Brian, our CE, could. The implications of having an external contract with Solutions, for instance, as if the work's slowing down, we won't have to pay them as much. Is that correct?
Correct. That also is no income. We still use them for other jobs as well, which don't relate to consenting. For example, the earthquake-prone buildings and the TA functions. So, Jim, can I just get you to? Sorry. So they're still doing jobs for us, but we should be able to reduce the costs now because we've managed to employ, which won't be in this report as it hadn't occurred at that point, we've managed to employ one of Solutions inspectors to come on board. So that will be a considerable cost saving for us.
Thanks for that, team. Let's jump to page 76. Page 77, I have a quick question here, but are there any other questions, councillors? Just wanted to double check. It's looking at dog registrations. So 2,591 currently registered with 4,165, so 61.6% not. Understand that we've just started that cycle. Is this what we would expect to see at this early stage?
Yeah, we're tracking pretty well, actually. I should have actually put in the end of year report there, the actual stats for the end of the year for registrations. We had less than 0.7% still remaining unregistered, which is probably a record. And for those that haven't been registered, have been infringed, and the next step is impounding their dogs if they still refuse to comply.
Thanks for that, Councillor Johns. Did you have a comment?
And just an off the cuff comment, good.
I'm glad you said it because that is, it is really encouraging, and I think this is where sometimes our successes can get lost in statistics. And so congratulations to the team on what they're achieving there. Very, very good. Page 77, any other questions on here? Page 78. For me on page 78, when we're looking at alcohol licensing applications, this may have just been me, but I compared it with the last report and I couldn't quite get the numbers to match. So just a request just to check that. May absolutely been me. But having a look off the last report, it appears that there has been a really large increase in new manager certificates, was plus 18 from the last report, if I'm reading it correctly. Special licenses an extra 20, and it does seem that the volume is increasing in that area. Am I reading the report correct, Jim?
That's not what I've got here. So new manager certificates, for example, the last report in May was 52. So 2 months later, end of June, 57.
Bring up in our last management report, that the numbers didn't match what was in that column.
I'll have to check that. Yeah.
Right. Page 78. No further questions, councillors. Page 79. Page 80, moving into customer services. Thanks very much, Jim. Appreciate it. Page 80, did councillors have any questions here? I had a very, very quick one. When we're having a look, and actually it jumps over to page 81 where it talks about the increase in CRMs. Does that include Antenno, and is there, I guess, a chance to be able to see the percentage split of Antenno versus other channels? So I think that's encouraging because we're out there encouraging people to use Antenno. It'll be part of that success story to see if that's great. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Brian.
Chief Scott, so any Antenno will become a CRM, but I'll discussed this with Sandy about getting an antenna report, and there may be, I'm pretty confident there are ways we can run reports from antenna. Might be that we've got to go back to Datacom and just list what we're required, but we'll make some inquiries and see what we can get for the next report.
I'd be really grateful to see that, Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, just while we're on that CRM report, can you get Dannywork up at the right-hand corner who writes that? Because when you read that one for us, when we get our CRM report, it's not on here, but when we get it sent to us, you go across like that, then Dannywork's down here. No, I know, but I'm just saying, while he's talking to Datacomms, he might be able to change the format.
Oh, that's a different report. Yeah, that's pretty clear. That's not a Datacom report, but I'll go back to Sandy and have a chat to her about that one as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Brian. Yeah, that's a internally produced report. It does actually nicely jump into another question that I had, and again, I might have this discussion. Thanks, Councillor Wards. Might have another quick discussion of us having some time within this to have a discussion on that CRM report that's sent out to elected members, but perhaps we'll add that into the report for our next meeting, if that's okay. Page 81, Mayor Tracy.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Just in the CRMs, I was intrigued that pensioner housing minor maintenance calls at 34. That seemed quite high in regards to the number of units that we own. Is there any rhyme or reason to that?
Thank you, Brian.
I think the best way to answer that is the change in expectations. So as we've had more folks move in, for example, we had a tenant move in a couple months ago and has already submitted multiple CRMs. It's just expectations. So I said to the team, we just need to do better at when someone leaves and then you bring them in as part of moving into this space. We just need to do better at making sure we take care of all the issues right then and there. Or do our best to tackle those issues so that the customer, but the tenant doesn't feel that they need to keep raising CRMs for different things that they're coming across. Does that make sense? So trying to make sure we're better at proactive maintenance rather than it becoming reactive. So that's a just challenge to the team that we just need to be a bit better in that turnaround space of a tenant moving out and a tenant moving in.
Thanks, Chair Scott. If I could just follow up, I guess, so obviously whether before we've re-tenanted that, was there maintenance that wasn't carried out to a certain level, or is it increased expectations?
Yeah, from the inspection, like the tenant moving out inspection, it was fine. But yeah, it's the change in expectation. So, and that's fair enough. Each tenant has their own expectations. Some are completely fine with what is there, and some expect, a gold handle. And we have had some are requesting, would be the best way to describe, as a change in the space to suit their personal, where they're at in their health journey. So when someone moves in at 65, could be at one stage in their physical abilities, and then say 5 years down the road, that's where we're seeing changes in what they're requiring. So handrails, ramps, which is a change in our level of service that we're having these conversations in the long-term plan, but yeah, it's mostly around that.
Thanks very much for that, Jesse. Councillor Long.
Through you, Chair. Jess, can you just give us an example of that tenant that moved in from 1 month and gave multiple CRMs? Can you give an example of a couple?
Yeah, so the tenant requested the whiteware is the responsibility of the tenant. So when hooking up a washer can be a common one. So that's where, again, our level of service, we like to go around and try to help and make sure those hookups, also it's in the best interest of us as the asset owner, so we don't have flooding out. But it was making sure the hookups were correct, wanting to replace tapware, wanting to replace handle. There's nothing wrong with the handle, but wanting to replace it, wanting to what's the other ones, think his was put in a ramp. I could send through the list if that's what you're interested in. It ended up being about 10 different things.
Thanks for that, Jessie. I guess in hearing that, I wonder if there is an opportunity for us to set our expectations or manage the expectations of new people moving in a very, very direct way. I find it disappointing if the facilities team is having to spend a huge amount of time managing that. And I do know in a lot of our facilities, and particularly in our pensioner flats, we provide a good level of service. So yeah, thank you for the work that you're doing on it. It does feel to me a bit like managing those expectations. So thank you. Councillor Johns.
Through you, Chair Scott, did you suggest to him that he might be better off elsewhere?
You can choose not to respond to them if you like. Thank you very much for that. Jess, last page on this report, councillors, page 82. Any questions on that? Okay, we got through that in nice time. One comment overall I just want to make on this report to the group manager and to the chief executive whose name this report is in. This was a very, very good and I think that was indicative of the number of questions that were asked, because there was a really, really good level of detail. So I just want to thank you for that. I found it great to look through, so I appreciate it. On page 55, so just jumping back, we have a recommendation that the report from the Chief Executive dated 18th of July 2023 concerning the management report be received. That is moved by Councillor Johns. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Long. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors.
Sorry, can I ask you a quick one?
Sure, Councillor Walsh.
Chair Scott, just the urban lighting, street lighting, isn't that under contract? Not our problem.
Councillor Wallace, could you just let us know what you're referring to? Page 82. Urban street lighting. Does anyone want to speak to that?
I can comment
if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, the urban lighting is matched under the roading side of it, shared between Waka Kotahi and local authorities. The urban lighting, we deal with lights within the urban area. However, there is also funding available from Waka Kotahi state highways, as well as a combination. But the Pongaroos, the further out of towns, it's all 100% for us through the local authority. But state highways, Woodville, Dannevirke, Paitua or Kirahund are also, we can get funding from Waka Kotahi.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Just in regards to the urban street lighting, you're referring to the customer requests that have come through. There is some lighting that we have had multiple requests put through, and I understand the lights have arrived and they're just working on installation.
Thank you, and thanks for coming up to the table. Councillors, we are now moving on to item 7.1, Capital Program Report, which is page 83 of your papers. So I'll just welcome Mike Dunn to the table.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Tracy, councillors, ladies and gents. So to present the capital program report. So to start with, I'll take it as read, and I think that everyone here would also note as well in here that I've actually, as per the last committee, that we've removed the financial part of that. So we are progressing this. I felt that it would also be a good position right now as well to sort of reflect back, I suppose, on where we started with these about a year ago. These were presented to the liaison committee and didn't have an accompanying report to go with it. Since then, we've talked about how we break these down into portfolios,
and then how we display that kind of information. So as it continues on, I am still happy to take further recommendations as to how better to portray this information and push this across to you. I think it'd also be important to note that those, in particular, these kind of projects that we're looking at actually presenting here as well are also these ones that sit outside of our business as usual for a lot of these. And that's also our projects part here, is that it has a start date, end date, and that's how we're looking at progressing these, in particular for our programs of works as well. So in noting that, just look at these ones I'd like to include after that, that we'll be going through with these 85 projects here. We've got 13 set aside for renewal purposes. And as we can go through, and so page 84, at 4.3, we can see how we've actually progressed into that as well. So we have majority actually pushed forward into completed at the end of that month. And we can see that there's going to be, I suppose, a bit of changes as I go into the next few of these because of the fact that we've just finished off the financial year, the annual plans adoption, the inclusion of those ones into the next one, and then how we actually put forward that information to you in this report. That's clear. I hope it is. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Mike. Is there any questions, councillors? I just wanted to have a look at page 87. So when we're digging into the Paeatua Service Centre earthquake strengthening, I see that the outstanding item on this, thanks Dave, see that the outstanding item is the stainless steel handrails that we have meetings. My question, two questions on that, if that's okay, is one, how long are we looking at to have that completed and have that reopened? And my second question is, if that does appear to be a bit of a lag, is there something that we could do as a temporary measure?
Afternoon, everyone. So up till right now, the handrail is completed. It's in place. The lighting, so there's little lights in the balustrade itself, which are just finishing off getting the power packs put inside. So they're all ready to get connected up. So I've been in today to do the snag list with the contractor. So front ramp handrail is completed. The rear, they're working on the lighting in the rear one. That's just the connection up, the wiring's in the handrail itself. They're just waiting to connect that up to the power. There is the heat pump in the main office to be installed. We've had a bit of a delay with the electrician, if you want to call it, in the context of 1G. I've been waiting for them to come on site for the last week or so. So they've been in and out, not completing all the work at the same time. So it's a bit frustrating going by 1G this morning. But the next couple of days, everything should be completed. So that's the heat pump, the rear handrail lighting, that was to do with the electrician. The front door sensor has to be fixed back in place, and the rear door alarm, which electrician was looking at, has now been handed over to our SIS contractor that does our security stuff. So we're waiting to for them to come and do that, which the time frame now is days, not weeks. So I'm just waiting for them to come on site. And just going through the snag list this morning, there's a couple of minor touch-up paint that I want fixed up. There was a bit of conduit cover that's got to be fitted, and on the front ramp, there's two coats of paint to go on the front ramp, which is about this deep, and they've been trying to do it all week with the rain that's been going on. So they've just been struggling with that. Apart from that, everything is completed. So just once the electrician's been installed, I'll be back down there to check and make sure it's all working and going. And when the painter is finished in the next day or so, hopefully I'll be able to check that out. So going by the end of this week, early next week, everything should be ticked.
Thanks very much for the update. I think there's a fairly high level of local and Paeatua community interest in having this completed. And I think that there's a number of people that are really excited for this project to be done. Could I respectfully request when that is done that that the mayor and councillors are notified via email, just so we know that it's all done and we can let some of our community members know. Great. Councillor Long.
Through you, Chair. The variation of the roof, that was picked up after the job was priced and started, is that correct? So where was the assessment of the roof before the tender went through?
When the contractor, when Becca does the design work for the earthquake strengthening, they look at what needs to be done to pass those regs or to get it up to that standard. So when the contractor went into so the roof part wasn't part of the actual earthquake strengthening. So when they went upstairs into there, the top plate around the outside was a bit rotten. If you went upstairs now and had a look at how much timber's in that building, in the roof, you wonder how the rest of the building is actually holding it up with the amount that's in there. So in some contexts, with the earthquake strengthening and all the work that was done with the plates and the steel girders across there, it isn't going to fall down in a hurry. But just to me, my personal self, it looks overdone. But because of the way the engineers designed it all up to specify for that, I think we've gone from a 33 or 35%. I think we've gone to 50 or 52. Don't confirm me on that, but it has actually gone up since we did that work in the roof alone. But yeah, it's one of those things when you don't know, when you're doing something like the roof and then you start looking at things that are, I mean, we had that bug that was eating into the timber and all that sort of thing. So once you start, you have to actually end up finishing off. You can't just carry on and just leave it. So yeah, I think the total variation was about 21,000, I think. But yeah.
Thanks. Did you have a follow-up?
The variation was 246,000. Is that right?
That was the roof.
The roof, yeah.
It's additional outside of the earthquake strengthening building.
So for me, Becca Engineering, if it's an earthquake, so if we have an earthquake right now, we're looking up. So Becca should have done that job better than what they have.
Just to quickly jump in here, there could be some commercial sensitivity. So I think that if we could keep our questions more to the council part of
engineering of that building, they looked at places, but they didn't look at the roof. So I would question that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Was there any other questions on this report for Mike? Let's jump page 83, our recommendation, and Mike, thank you very much for your report and your presentation. The recommendation that the report from the manager, programs and projects dated 18th of July 2023 concerning the capital program report be received. Could I have someone to move that for me? The Deputy Mayor and Councillor Sutherland. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion carried. Thank you very much, team. We are now moving on to page 89 of our papers, item 7.5, community-led development plans, community plans. So welcome to the table, Kimberly.
Hello, everybody. And first and foremost, big apologies for my mobile going off. Let's just address that. Hello, and thank you for having me. I will just take the report as read, and I'm available should there be any questions.
Thank you very much for that. I wanted to just personally thank you for the time that you've put into this, but actually also the time that you've put into running through this with our community members. So I've been fortunate to get a briefing of this, and this is why I was so keen for this to actually come to our entire committee. It's a really good comprehensive report, Kimberly, so I'm really grateful for that. But absolutely we can take that as read. Do we have any questions, councillors? Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Chair Scott. 5.2.3 regarding the presentation to positively Woodville. Have you heard back from the committee yet as to next? I understood we had.
I will have, sorry, I have not heard back from the committee as yet. I understand that they have resolved to move forward with a community plan, but they have not yet made contact with me. That could be pending the next meeting. I'm not sure as to why I haven't received that contact as yet.
Thanks for that. I think that might just be the time lag of where the meetings are, but definitely that resolution was passed. I was at that meeting, so thank you. Any other questions, councillors, on this important piece of work? I think it's a measure of the report, Kimberly, because there doesn't appear to be any more questions. One thing that I would hugely encourage councillors to do when it comes to this, these, if they are done well, they can make such a difference to community. So as councillors, I highly encourage you to get in behind these, to back them, and to make the most of them. But I'm super excited about where this is heading for you and for the team. So definitely my thanks and the committee's thanks for the work that you're doing on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
The report. Page 89, I just want to jump into the recommendation that the report from the Economic and Community Development Advisor dated 21 July 2023 concerning the community-led development plans, community plans, be received. Moved by Councillor Wallace. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Long. All those in favour, please say aye.
No.
Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Page 117, we're moving on to town signs. Item 7.6. So welcome up, Colin.
Chair, I'd like to introduce Ray Cannon from Tararua Alliance as well, who's going to join us from that roading perspective as well. I've asked him to join us for this discussion. So paper on town signage and update there is there, and we'll take it as read if that's agreeable.
Absolutely fine. Thanks for that. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Scott. Chair Scott. The item 3.2, the signs on the state highways for Northwood, Dannevirke, Woodville and south of Eketahuna are yet to be installed. That's all the towns.
We take it as that, but obviously the town signage goes all the way through our rural communities as well, and they have all been installed. And the Eketahuna signs, it's only the one south of town, which is in the higher speed limit zone. The other town signs in Eketahuna are already installed, and Paihia Tour isn't on that list, and that's fully installed.
What's the hold?
Could you just put your microphone on, Councillor John?
Sorry. What's the hold up? I mean, this has been over, this is 18 months since, or longer.
We can most probably share that answer for you. So as noted in the report, the town signs that are outside of the 50km/h zone have been requested by Wakatahi around their frangible ability, which is all mentioned in here, but it's around how a sign reacts in an accident or if something hits it, that it snaps rather than folds or bends. And so that's a piece of work that we've been working through with them. I would state that Tower Alliance have supported us on that process, and with the Cyclone Gabrielle work that they have been heavily involved in with the roading work, has meant that their team hasn't been able to spend full time on this, and rightly so, they should be putting the roads back into active use for our community. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Ray, or you're comfortable.
Thanks, Chair Scott. Would it be possible to get a timeline on when it's going to happen? We get asked, I know in Woodville, what's happening with the sites several times. It's a bit embarrassing. And given that it's a couple of years ago that was all settled, a done deal, nothing's happened. I mean, Gabrielle was only a few months ago. That's pretty late in the piece. Could you provide a date at which these are going to?
I can't provide a date for all of those areas noted at the moment. Once we've got the approved plan for the signs, and that's been approved by Waka Kotahi, then we can give you a timeline. So we will provide that once we've worked that through with Waka Kotahi that they've approved the process.
We have a draft report that Nixon's prepared, and that was probably going to be ready today, but he hasn't ordered that through. There was discussion about obviously the concern about the flangeability of those, and that Nixon has put a couple of proposals forward. Then from there, it's obviously going to have to be discussion around price, because some of the signs that have obviously been put in may not meet the standards and they may have to be readjusted. So we're just supporting in that by producing a design which can be approved, and then obviously back to our delivery team for pricing, and then back to Colin as far as the work to be undertaken.
So when will that be?
We just, our component is providing the board and design, and that should be hopefully possibly by this Friday or even early next week. We should have that report sorted.
Thank you very much for that. If you don't mind, Councillor Johns, I think I had a similar line to what you had, and so that is brilliant to hear that those designs, perhaps within a week or so, may be there. I do want to share Councillor Johns's concerns with this, and I certainly am asked about this a lot. And I do note that I first started requesting information on this back in February of this year. At that point, I was told that it would be in the first half of this year. Completely understand that we've had the cyclone and that there's other priorities. One thing that I would ask on this through Adele, if that's okay, is if this item, town signs, is added into the management report until it has been resolved. So this committee at least can keep an eye on it, and we can get updates through there. Now, my hope would be that it doesn't have to appear in too many of those reports, as I'm sure yours would be. But I do think that this needs to be monitored in a formal way just to make sure that it's progressing. Is that okay, Adele? Cool. Thank you. Was there any other questions on this item, team? Colin, thank you very much, and Ray, thank you very much for your update. I really appreciate a paper coming, because obviously you are getting a few questions, and this was great to actually have this coming through in a formal way to us. We have a recommendation on here, page 117. The recommendation is that the report from the Economic and Community Development Advisor dated 21 July 2023 concerning the town's signs update be received. Could I have someone move that report for me, please? Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Johns. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, team. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, team, we are moving into our last item of business, which was our late item. So hopefully you have a copy of that in the hub. So this is item 8 of our agenda and the locality boundary determination. So I'd just like to hand over, if possible, through to Adele to speak to this. If you'd like to use that, if that's frozen, feel free.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I hope everyone's had the time to have a look at this report. I note that it did drop into the system yesterday, so I just wanted to highlight the points focused on in the report that we have the three new entities established as part of the health system reform, and a large focus on localities. And local government does feature in the new legislation, the Pai Ora Act, in particular to determine locality boundaries and then locality plans. So I wondered if we've got any questions on this before we focus in on what we've been asked to look at.
Thanks very much for that, Adele. One thing, I guess, just to frame up with this before we jump into questions is this is a late item. It isn't one that I have any expectations that we in this meeting provide feedback on the boundaries. This is really a desire that the usual chair, Alison, and myself had to make sure that this was brought to the committee's attention, and also to seek that this come through to a full council meeting. So I don't intend for us to debate at this point what those boundaries are. It's more knowing that the Mayor has received a formal request from Te Whatu Ora seeking our feedback on those proposed boundaries, and then providing the committee all of that back information. So with that in mind, is there any questions? Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Chair Scott. We had quite a good discussion with Oriana Paiwai regarding the health set up a couple of meetings back, and she did discuss this with us, and I sort of can understand the localities, the boundaries, things. But I just wondered. I think we generally had a bit of a discussion about a few issues there, and Oriana was quite forthcoming about some of those, some of the good things and some of the bit more frustrating. But I just wondered, before we dived in, and they want feedback from numbers of groups, including us. But I thought before I'd be interested in, and we did have iwi partners that day. I'm not sure actually at that meeting we had Oriana here, but it'd be pretty important to me to have both iwi partners' thoughts on those boundaries. I mean, they're feeding in formally to this, but anyway, just some comments about that really. But
thanks, Councillor Sutherland. Mayor Tracy, do you have some comments?
We do have an upcoming iwi governance meeting where we could highlight this and seek some feedback.
I think that would be very, very helpful, and perhaps also we aren't the only council where these boundaries impact. So there could be some conversations with other mayors, perhaps, on this. I do, councillors, think that this is hugely important for our district. It's something that we have talked about as a group quite a lot, which is health within the Tararua. So I'm glad to see this join our agenda, and for us to, at our next council meeting, be able to really drill into it, debate, discuss, and to see what our position as a district is. So thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, I see on page 26, we're not the first, in the first localities, we're not mentioned. So going forward, so they'll be implementing a lot of this. So we'll probably be, with the stats of population, it's quite a good work out there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Wallace. Any other comments? Councillor Long.
Just, I thought that Te Whataora was going to come back to the council with a recommendation of where they thought the boundaries should be. Did I read this report wrong?
My understanding, and I may hand over to Adele in case I don't get this part correct, the way that it was structured was the iwi Māori Partnership Boards made a recommendation that goes through to Te Whataora. Te Whataora is, which is the old name for the Ministry of Health, sorry, the new name for the Ministry of Health. They have a legislative requirement to also receive feedback and input from councils and territorial authorities. So we're running through that process now, and I think for me, one of the reasons of making sure that this is on the agenda is that we exercise that right. So I'm making sure that we as a council exercise that right to give our opinion, but Adele may have something more to add perhaps.
Thanks, Chairman Scott. You summed that up really nicely. Whilst it is iwi Māori Partnership Boards that have been leading this, it is the responsibility of Te Whatuora to engage. So iwi Māori Partnership Boards have determined what they see as would be appropriate boundaries, but that still needs to come through from Te Whatuora. And just to pick up on Councillor Wallace's comment around page 26, those are the locality prototypes. There were 9 that were announced first, and those are what those are. So those are not the minister announced when the legislation was rolled out which localities they would focus on first, and there's a whole lot of support wrapped around them to prototype what localities could look like across the country. So that's what those are. And then the intention is to build and for all of the localities to be determined by the timeframe of June, end of June next year.
Thanks very much for that, Adele. And I might just take half a step back, just so the committee is aware of where this originally came from. So this came from an email request through to Mayor Tracy asking for our agreement on the proposed locality boundaries. Within that email was what is attached into this report, and that was the basis of what this report was written on. So if we are, I guess, we have the opportunity within that to give our feedback and not just, I guess, say, yes, we're not going to look at it further. So it is a formal request from Te Whataora, and this really starts that process for us to be able to look at it and to be able to really provide a bit more of a report. Now, one thing I did want to quickly say on here is to compliment Adele, because this came through very, very, very late in the piece. This was a report that I asked to be drafted literally the day that everyone had received it. And I was incredibly impressed with the detail of the report. I was expecting something very, very, very short. So it's a great start, and I guess it's leveraging that health experience that you have, Adele, but I wanted to thank you for that. Was there any other questions on this report? Okay, so I'm going to move to the recommendations, if that's okay. So the first recommendation is that the report from the Group Manager Strategy and Community Wellbeing dated the 31st of July 2023 concerning the locality boundary determination be received. We might just be able to take these together if that's okay. The second one, that the committee request a report on the Te Pai Oranga or Ruahine or Tararua Iwi Māori Partnership Board's recommendation on locality boundaries and the impacts that recommendation may have on the Tararua district to be presented at the next council meeting on the 30th of August 2023. I'm happy to move that. Do I have someone to second it? Councillor Chase, all those in favour, please say aye. Motion is, against. Motion is carried. Thank you very much for that, councillors. Councillors, that brings us to the end of quite a heavy agenda, or quite a big agenda. I just wanted to make a very quick reflection that this shows the value in some way of moving to bi-monthly, to be having those meaningful conversations and those bigger agenda items. Thank you to all of the staff that have diligently worked to be providing us with the reports that we've been discussing, and for councillors' time today. So with that, the meeting is closed. Thank you all very much.
Great, dirty.